I can't tell you how incredibly honored I am to be here tonight. And in the midst of people that I honestly consider heroes. There are no two people in public life who are more passionate and more committed and more enthusiastic and more focused on helping people in need than Congressman McGovern and Congresswoman DeLauro. I really, some of you have the opportunity to see these folks in action, but I have the opportunity to see them frequently, and it's just, it's an amazing tribute to the people who have elected them, that we have people who serve us as well as they do. And Jim, I want to thank you and the folks at FRAC. You have taught me so much. You have taught me so much in the 7.5 years I've been in Washington, D.C. You know, I think the rest of us outside of Washington, D.C., who live and work in small towns and in big cities, who go about our daily life, don't understand and appreciate operations like FRAC and what they do for us. Not just what they do for people who are struggling or people in need, but what they do for all of us. As I was thinking about this dinner tonight and realizing I was going to be among the midst of people who have spent their lives advocating for the less fortunate and the people who need a helping hand, my eyes gravitated to a quote that's in my office. It's been in my office, every office I've ever had, from Teddy Roosevelt. And most often it's the quote that starts, "It's not the critic who counts," and people understand the beginning of it and the end of it, but I like the middle of it because it talks about people who know great devotions, who spend themselves in worthy causes. And that's the audience tonight. That's who I am among tonight. People who have spent their life in incredible devotion to people who need champions, who need advocates, who need strong voices. And there is no stronger voice and advocate than you, Jim, and the people at FRAC. So I am honored to be here. Certainly want to acknowledge those who have also been acknowledged tonight. Lucy, thank you for the service and work that you do. And honestly, I don't think it's just about Connecticut. I think the impact that you and the folks in Connecticut have spreads throughout New England and throughout the northern part of this country. And you have a profound impact, not just in your important state, but throughout that region. And I want to thank Senator Murkowski for her leadership as well. You know, Emerson once said, it's one of the beautiful compensations of life that people can sincerely help one another by also helping themselves. And I wanted to talk to you tonight about the work that you all do. And not necessarily the impact on the people who are directly affected by child nutrition or the people who are directly helped by SNAP. I want to talk to you about what you do for the rest of us and advocating for those programs. I was in a school yesterday in Virginia and with First Lady McAuliffe and Secretary King, and we were watching young folks come into an elementary school, Robert E. Lee Elementary School, in a fairly poor area in Virginia. And these kids showed up ready to learn. But most of them had not had breakfast. Most of them obviously came from families that are financially stretched. And they gravitated towards the table that we were serving, a nice little carton of milk, a little fruit, a little yogurt. These kids grabbed that food and they consumed it. And we then had the opportunity to go into a classroom about a half an hour after that. And I saw young children, now well-fed, who were really focused on the task of spelling words. Now, I had a hard time spelling zero. They did not. Spell check has changed my life. But it was wonderful to watch these kids who were genuinely interested in learning. And because of your advocacy for expansion of school breakfast, these kids are ready to learn. We happened to have a press conference in a gymnasium, and I pointed out to people, you know, here we are in a place of competition, a school gymnasium where they've got the scoreboard, they keep score. We need to understand that these kids are engaged in a competition, not as was the case when I was growing up, a competition against the local school down the road or maybe even a school in another state. These kids are competing against kids their age everywhere in the world. And without that breakfast, without that nutritious lunch, without that snack, without the opportunity perhaps even to have supper after school, these kids won't learn as well as they were meant to learn. They wouldn't reach their God-given potential. And that impacts all of us, because these kids are obviously the future leaders and workers and business owners and teachers and engineers and doctors and lawyers and all of the activities that go on in this economy. So your advocacy for a decent school meal program, your advocacy for improving what we feed our children, for expanding opportunities for fruits and vegetables, making sure that they have less sugar and sodium, focusing on dairy, making sure that they have whole grains. This is about our future. It's not just about doing the right thing for these kids. It's about doing the right thing for us. And we should acknowledge that and celebrate it. The same thing is true with SNAP. You know, I'm proud of the fact that in this administration, we've expanded, with your help, access to this great program. 72% of eligibles were receiving SNAP when we came into office, and Kevin and his team at FNS made it their mission to make sure that people understood the importance of this program and access to this program. And now we're at 83, 85%, and now we're focused on the one area that we still have work to do with our senior citizens. You know, only 41% of our seniors are getting the benefits that they're entitled to. Now, why is it in our best interest that SNAP families get access to nutrition? Well, one thing is, in the face of a recession, it does indeed stimulate the economy, and that impacts and affects all of us. It improves the economy, it creates jobs. For senior citizens, if we make sure that they have access to decent food, then the chances are pretty good they're not going to have as many chronic diseases or problems having to go to docs. And they're not going to have the medical expense that we eventually all pay for. You see, it's in our best interest that these programs live on. It's in our best interest that they function properly. And here's another thing about SNAP, which we take for granted. You know, I got to be careful about this. We do have a great country, and it's great because of the Declaration of Independence, and it's great because of the Constitution, and it's great because of our leaders. But it's also great because we've got a nutrition assistance program that makes sure that there is an opportunity to help families who are struggling make sure that they have adequate resources and adequate nutrition. It helps. If you look around the world at all of the areas that are troubled, there are two interesting aspects of the troubled areas in this world, and it's got nothing to do with the religion that people are worshiping in those countries. It has to do with the fact they don't have a functioning agricultural economy, and they don't have a nutrition assistance program. So that means they've got a lot of hungry people and a lot of unemployed people and a lot of unhappy people. We don't necessarily have this in this country. We have a stable and secure country in large part because of our nutrition programs. Do not forget that. Do not forget that. Now, some of Representative McGovern's colleagues have got this great idea that they're going to make the program simpler. They're going to do away with things like community eligibility, even though 18,000 schools are now benefiting from it. 8.5 million kids are getting it. More breakfast is being served, more lunch is going to be. But we're going to get rid of that opportunity to make it easier for schools to administer the school meal program. They're going to block grant these programs. Now, I served as governor for 8 years, and I was proud of being a governor. But let me tell you how I interpret a block grant in the context of nutrition programs. Block grant says to me, we're going to have a program. We're going to be able to talk about the program. We're going to be able to tout the program. We don't want anybody to use it. We're going to create so many barriers, so much difficulty, that fewer and fewer and fewer people will have access to it. Do not be confused about what the purpose of a block grant is. It is not about creating the opportunity for people to be creative. We're plenty creative at FNS. We're creative. We got more people getting SNAP. We've got opportunities to expand access to school meals. We're working on improving the WIC program. We're plenty creative. That's not the issue here. The issue is having sufficient resources to make sure that we reach every single family in need and be proud of it, not to shy away from it, and to understand that the country is better for it. So please help us make sure that this block grant notion does not take root in this country, because it is only about reducing access to these programs. We will suffer, all of us will suffer, if we block grant these programs. Make no mistake about that. Some of you have heard this before, and I apologize for repeating it, but you know, I was born in an orphanage. And the one thing I know about my very early childhood was that there had to have been somebody at that orphanage that cared about me and who fed me. Now, I know that because I have pictures of my first day in my adopted home, and I was pretty plump. My parents explained it somewhat akin to picking the Thanksgiving turkey. They said they went in the orphanage and looked for the healthiest kid they could find, and figured since I was the plumpest kid, they'd pluck me from the orphanage and bring me home. So early in my life, I had to depend on somebody else to help me. And the reality is, no matter what your station in life is, we all have to depend on somebody else. And I am deeply concerned about the attacks on government. You see, government is my helper. Government is the entity that makes life better for all of us. And I, for one, have listened for 20 years now of people tearing government down, talking about fraud, waste, and abuse, and never talking about the extraordinary benefits we get in this country, the amazing stability that we have, the security we have, the benefits we have, the freedoms we have, brought in part by the government we have. I'm proud of being part of government. And I think I'm proud of what my department does. I'm proud of the fact that 44 million Americans are receiving food assistance. I'm proud of the fact that 21 million kids get a decent lunch at school, and 13 million kids, and increasing every single day, get that school breakfast that allows them to be better learners. I'm proud of the fact that we have over 8 million women, infants, and children who start life in a positive way with better access to better fruits and vegetables and better, more nutritious food. I'm proud of the fact that we're helping people buy homes, and we're helping create jobs, and we're helping to build schools and hospitals, that we're focusing on mental health issues. I'm proud of all of that work. And I just happen to be fortunate enough to be secretary of that department, and that's the reason I'm getting this award today. But I will tell you, Jim, I accept this award on behalf of the thousands of hardworking people at USDA who every single day wake up with one mission, and that is to serve the public. It is a noble undertaking, and I'm proud to be part of it. So, far be it from the Secretary of Agriculture to separate you from dessert. Hopefully it's fruits and vegetables. This is an amazing organization. And those of you who are highlighted in the program, who have provided financial support for this meal and for this organization, are doing a great service to the country. Because you are helping to fuel an army of passionate advocates, of people who care so deeply about others, who are relentless in their advocacy for access to these wonderful programs, who are proud of the work they do and proud of the programs that they support. I think there is a new day coming in this country. A new day when we begin to see the benefits of service, when we see the benefits of programs that help others, and when we understand that when we help others, we help ourselves. God bless you all. Thank you.